Richard Willett from Ickonic. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Looking forward to working with you on our new project coming up in the new year. Yes, really well. Been writing today. Um, did something for the book that's coming out in the new year and wrote an article today. So it's been a nice day, nice relaxing day, not loads of video editing. So yeah, nice day.
Before we delve into what you've been doing, um, I've kept it really hush hush. I haven't posted about the documentary. I've mentioned it to a few people, but I actually haven't put it out there. And I keep waiting for a time to do it, the right moment. And perhaps it's now.
Yeah, we're working on something called was it 1776 is the title, and it's to do with your first book as well, more with the kind of Tartaria stuff, and we're going to look at why 1776 is such a crucial year to the Illuminati party, as I call it, with Adam Weishaupt meeting up with Mayer Amschel Rothschild, and you've got Jacob Frank, who was the successor to sabotage Zevi even, and how important this time was in 1776. So I'm really looking forward to it, and we're going to do it in like a Charles Dickens kind of way, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, but I'm also a little bit nervous. But it'd be good fun. Be nice to spend time with you all as well. So,
Yep.
what's the article you've written today?
So the one I wrote today is I'm always looking for backup for information or theories I have, um, which is a combination of all the information that I've come with. So one of them is obviously, and it's quite a standard one that people are going to be attached to this Solomon's Temple, and being as you know from your background, it's a massive part of the cult building the third temple on Temple Mount. Now, the Chabad guys that are running Netanyahu and Trump and probably Putin as well, at least they have a massive influence. They talk about it being a broadcast center and a transmitter for them. They openly tell you that. So my kind of a take on that is that they're going to connect people to that system, and that's where the beast system will be. And it's kind of like the whole book, really. I'm Immortal. I'm working on, and the film that I've just brought out on iconic.com, I'm Immortal, kind of goes into how all this is going to work. So I was looking for some information to back that up, and I was looking on their website because it's the best place to look on Chabad.org. They tell you all of this stuff if you know what you're looking for. As I said, they still call it a broadcasting system and a transmitter to the world. They'll tell you what they're going to do with this. So in the Holy of Holies, which is the square cubic bit at the back of Solomon's Temple, as you would well know, so you get the Holies. You go in through Jacqueline and Boaz, you go into the Holies, square bit at the back beyond the veil, ripping the veil, which is obviously connotations to another realm. There was the Holy of Holies, which is a 20 by 20 by 20 cubit square. And in there, they had the Ark of the Covenant. And this is all, I'm not saying this ever existed. I'm saying that this is the mythology around it and the story
Sure.
around it
Yeah.
and what they're trying to replicate. I'm not saying I believe that they existed because I don't, but it doesn't matter what I believe. Um, so 20 by 20 by 20 was a square cube. Now, when you look at what it was 20 qubits. So I was looking at, okay, well, qubits now is, that means in modern day language, quantum bits, QU bits. So qubits then is qubits now. So that square qubit would be to me a quantum computer. So that if you
Right.
bring it into modern days, so the qubits of the Holy of Holies will be a square box, seal of Saturn. It also could be, sorry, the cube of Saturn, the black version, or it could be the white version, gold version, which is the Zion, New Jerusalem. The cube is it they work on all of these principles. So I was looking to that going, this is what they're going to build. It's going to have a quantum computer in it, which they will call the Ark of the Covenant. Now, my original understanding of the Ark of the Covenant, or is still today, that that was some sort of technology with electromagnetic abilities to tap into another realm. Possibly the archons, if you want to go down the Gnostic route,
Yeah.
these demons, demonology. It's the same thing as doing a sacrificial ritual, brings up the same energies, but this was technology, I believe, that could do it. I don't believe in an original Ark of the Covenant. I think these were ways of telling stories of technology they once had, being able to talk to these beings outside our visible light spectrum. So my article today, long way of saying it, was that I wanted to see that, okay, if there anything on the Habad website that says that they might be connected to this system. Well, as soon as I looked into the Messiah and the Holy of Holies, you go halfway down the page and it says that back then, the first and second temple era, if you believe there were temples, they could only visit and pilgrimage to those 3 times a year because it was so far away. And then it says, but we won't need to do that with the third temple because we will visit it on clouds.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? And honestly, like, visit it on clouds. So straight away, oh, what do you mean, like Google Cloud? You mean AI, quantum computers tapped into the cloud? The brain of human 2.0 will be born, in my opinion, directly into the cloud, tapped into the cloud. They call it the cloud, Google Cloud.
Yeah.
Gemini is their AI intelligence. So I'm finding these symbolic references everywhere. There's two ways to look at this. Either they're copying something, or there's some metadata that my friend Wayne McCroy calls it, coming from another realm, telling us what they're up to try and warn us. I think it's a bit of both because I think that's how alchemy works. Um, so yeah, that was the article today. I found they say here the cloud, and they say we don't have to go and visit it once, like every 3 years. Actually, visit the temple because the physical temple on Temple Mount, which is, it'll be
Yeah.
a pilgrimage. You'll log in once a month, and you'll log in, and you'll get your Yom Kippur day to atone for your sins against your seven Noahide laws, and then you'll get your social credit score, which will be a 24/7, real time accumulation of what you've said and done and didn't do.
Yes.
They thought you did. And I know it sounds mad, but these people are mad. Look at them as
Mm.
a cult. And you know better than me. That's why I'm fascinated to talk to you, being in the Masons as you were, that these things are very much on topic. Am I right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people say that I say that I was a Freemason, and people remind me that I swore an oath that I would always be one, because I think it's a difficult subject as someone when as someone that no longer goes. Um, because no matter what I say, there are people out there that think I'm a 33rd degree Freemason, or I'm actually still in them, and they've asked me to do this. I'm getting information out they want shared. They're using me to do it, and that tends to come from people who know the least
Mm,
about Freemasons. But I consider it a little bit like the Hotel California song by the Eagles.
yeah.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. But most people get to a relatively low level, so they're of no threat because you've mentioned several things that without the internet nobody would know about unless they were in actually in the organization or
Mm,
society. But one thing that I was told when I joined was that I wasn't joining a secret society. I was joining a society of secrets.
hmm
And I thought that was quite something in itself to hear. I mean, as far as they're concerned, they're not a secret society. You can go around telling people you're in it, and they actively encourage people to join. They're always looking to recruit,
Yep.
in their eyes, the right people, upstanding and so on. Um, but obviously, they don't want you discussing certain things. But everything's out there if you know what to look for. The internet has done that. But most of the time, anyone who says that I am a 33rd degree Freemason or a Messiah or something is someone who typically knows very little about it. The other thing I found interesting is that over the years, the amount of people that have told me that a member of their family or a close friend is a 33rd degree Freemason, almost like there are thousands of them out there.
Yeah.
And each time I think, well, from what I know, it's not something you tell anyone.
Right.
So there you go. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
that's yeah my thoughts on
Well,
that.
my great great granddad, and I never met him obviously because he's my great granddad. He was a Freemason and he was quite well known. His name was William Willett, and he was responsible for Daylight saving time. He was the guy that they pushed it through, and he's the guy. If you look at daylight saving time, you'll get William Willett builders. And I didn't know any of this growing up. Obviously, none of my family are in the Masons, as far as I know. But he was a well-known Mason. I think he knew Churchill and all of these guys.
Wow.
So they're everywhere. I can walk down the end of the street, and I know that because of the building that the what do you call it? Kind of like the center of where I live. There's a like a building there where people just meet up and have coffee and drinks and the bar, and that's where the gym is. I've got the name of it. It's clearly Solomon's Temple. I mean, it's
Mm,
clear as day. The front is a replica of Solomon's Temple. Even in the car park, they've got pillars with globes on top. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, I knew that when I go to, because I work out there. I'm not anymore, but I did do till about 6 months ago. And you could tell who were the Freemasons, and they were asking you questions and sussing you out when I first got moved here
mm,
about 6 years ago. Um, but as you say, you look at the very, very pinnacle of these guys, and you're talking about the guys that get invited to these things with the royals and the black nobility. They're the ones that really know what's going on, which is it just it's fascinating. As you say, it's not a secret society anymore. It's a semi-secret society with secrets, and that's what once you start to learn how to think like them. Like if you look into the Lurianic Kabbalah, I suggest anyone study that because if you want to learn how to think like these occultists think, everything's in there in terms of like a klepoth or kelipoth. Klepoth, I think is the way to pronounce it, is a husk. And when you realize that what they do is they see it as an evil husk, they do in Lurianic Kabbalah, obviously of the Sephiroth, which is the nice husk. They hide within things, like a shell within a shell within a shell within a shell. So when you've got the Sabbatean Frankists, which we'll speak about in your series and your documentary, sorry, coming up, those guys hide within every religion, every sect, every central intelligence agency, right at its very core, because that's the practice. They're a virus, but they hide within things as use them as shells. That's why they're called the Rothschilds, because the red shield. So
yeah.
you start to tune into how they function and how they work. So that's why people are going. It's the Jews, it's the Christians, it's in every area of those. By their fruits you will know them. That was the point. And I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, but that is true. Just look at their behavior. Not what they're saying, what they're doing. Look at Donald Trump. Not what he's saying. He's a salesman. Poor one at that. But hey, look what he's doing. Look what he does. Look at his
Mm,
actions. Look what the outcomes are. They're all to do with this messianic agenda. So all my work at the moment is about telling people about what this agenda is and why you're seeing what you're seeing happening around the world. And yeah, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just think it's so bloody obvious. But
yeah. Yeah. They're following a script. We know exactly what they're doing.
yeah,
Yeah. And the hard thing is waking people up to that. Um, because for as many people that I speak to that are awake, there are probably the same number that claim to be, but are still watching the news, voting, and but watching the news religiously, not because they're looking for what they're not saying or reading between the lines, but actually because they want to know what's going on. And the mainstream news is the last place you're ever going to find out what's going on. You know,
mm.
it's designed to do the reverse. And it's interesting to see what Trump and the BBC are up to, though. I don't watch the BBC or listen to it, but obviously I see things. And that's quite interesting. I mean, he potentially could end the BBC if he goes ahead with his legal action against them.
Well,
What do
that would be a look at me. Well, that just it's all about building an image, isn't it? I'm
you?
against the
Mm,
whole old BBC. No, you're not, mate, because you're in there with the Royals. The Royals are in there with Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was doing all sorts of weird stuff all over the BBC. That is ridiculous. So, like anything, it's controlled demolition. So it will
mm,
look good on his CV, and I'll make him look like he's anti-establishment. But he's the most establishment person you could find right now, who's bailed out by the Rothschilds, for God's sake.
mm, mm,
So he's not anti-establishment. He's not even Trump. He's Drumpf, for God's sake. He works with Chabad Lubavitch, who push this messianic agenda, same as through Putin and Netanyahu. So yeah, it's all theatre. It would look good. Now people need to realise that at the very top of these black nobility bloodlines and probably outside of this visible light spectrum, they don't care about the BBC. It's a corporation. The whole thing is a corporation. The whole cult is a corporation. Donald Trump answers to the Crown Corporation, which is the Vatican religion, Washington D.C., Rome, Maryland, it used to be called, which is your military, and your City of London is your banking and your law. You have your inner temple, outer temple, middle temple there, which is all again spiritual
Yeah.
and also Freemasonic, and they have the unicorn there, which the unicorn is feet on the floor, wings trying to take it into the air. It's all about ascension, same thing over and over again. Um, Donald Trump answers to the Crown Corporation. The world answers to the Crown Corporation. Now, who are the Crown Corporation? It's a corporate entity that's owned by some of these black nobility families, but also some of these families that were around then that have gone into business and corporation. Corpse means dead. It's a dead
Yeah.
entity. So when you get your birth certificate, you are working for your. Actually, it's funny what you were saying this earlier because I'm self-employed, but we're all self-employed because we've employed ourselves for our own corporation, which is our
Mm.
birth certificate. So I'm earning money for the capital letters Richard Willett, which is my corporation, and that capital letters Richard Willett, capital line Hill, sends his tax money to the corporation. So my corporation that I work for is my own, not just because I'm self-employed, because every single person who has a birth certificate is working for themselves in that sense. And then they give you got to give money from that corporation because it's a crown-owned corporation in your name to the crown, which isn't the British Royals, although they're part of it. It's a corporation, which goes back to Babylon and Samaria, and you know all of this, and it fascinates me. That stuff
Well, it's
fascinates me.
you've got to hand it to them.
Yeah,
They did one hell of a job.
they did.
They
Yeah.
really have stitched us up. And of course, most people will say, well, it's all about money. But it's not all about money. And especially, looking at fiat currency, I mean, if you're sat at the Bank of England or you are, Alexandra Rothschild or whatever, then you can put as many zeros on your bank balance as you like. No one can do anything about it. No one's even going to know you did it. So
Yeah.
we know it's not about money at that level. It might be about money for the people that sit on the table next to them, but it's certainly not the people running the show. This is about control.
Oh,
This is in every way controlling our emotions, controlling our decisions, and I think they take great pleasure from moments where we decide we're going to fight each other, whether that's outside a pub or on a battlefield, and also when our lives end prematurely.
mm.
I think there's a lot of pleasure taken from that. And I think 2020 was an example of them in a test ground as well, but an example of them demonstrating that actually, if they can cause on a worldwide scale, suffering and pain, then I think that sort of the Loosh farm theory really then it's clearly demonstrated that's what
Mm.
they live off, our sort of low vibration.
That's it. It's energy. Exactly what you're saying. Money is just a physical representation, digital now, because we're moving over into that holographic world of energy moving around. And you said perfectly put it. You said the 2020, so you were talking about the corona element of it. Corona, what does that mean? It's crown. It was the
Mm,
crown virus. And what symbol did they use? What were kids drawing everywhere? Putting in the windows. They're putting the
mm,
rainbow. The rainbow
mm,
is the symbol of the Noahide laws, which are the laws of this cult that they want you to live. It's that promise that God will never, or God, this is electromagnetic demon that they're contacting with the Ark of the Covenant, allegedly. That entity, which is energy, that entity is represented by the Noahide laws because it was over the rainbow. It was beyond the visible light spectrum, which is the rainbow. That's all we can see. I
yeah.
believe we could see these beings before without having to do any of this nonsense. I believe they dialed us down, and I think we're
Mm,
a like mind like that. They dialed us down, not us as souls, as energy, as the physical body, like they're doing now with Human 2.0 when you'll be born plugged into the, as I say, cloud. They've
How
dialed
far
it
away do you
down,
think we
and
are from
this
that, Richard?
energy
Sorry, how far away are
they've
you?
got two. Well, yeah, no, you're good. In my guess, I mean, it is a guess. Obviously, two, I would say 100 years at most in terms of that. Now, the reason why I say that is because if I go with this messianic agenda that they believe we are in the year, they believe 5,785. I'll try and explain this as quick as possible. They believe that every 1,000 years since the birth of Adam was the year of creation. So there's 6 days, which is up to your 6,000th year. Now we're nearly there already. The 7,000th year, they're supposed to be a year of rest with their God. It's that 1,000 year millennium in Judaism, and it's that 1,000 years reign of golden age of Christ in Christianity. Same time frame. It's based on the 7 days of the week. So we are currently at 5,785. Now they need to get us who are not in the cult out the way by the 600th year, sorry, the 6,000th year, which blends over into
Yeah,
the seventh millennium. That makes sense? I'm not sure if I
yeah,
explained it very well.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
no, bang on.
yeah,
In the
so
same way, we're in the 21st century now, but the year's 2025.
yeah, exactly. But in terms of, so if you say 21st century, they go, well, that's only 2,100 years. No, you're going back from the time of Adam, which is
Yeah,
4,000 years plus for these guys, by the way. I'm not
yeah,
saying I believe this stuff. So if you look at people like the sycophant, what was his name? Randy Fine, who follows Trump around like a little lost dog,
yeah.
he wears a hat with 5785 on it because that's the year they think we're in. So that gives us about 215 years before they want to get this done. And they think if they haven't got it done like then, they're scared of Yahweh, by the way. So
Mm,
he'll come back and take it out on them. That's why they do sacrificial things every Yom Kippur. That's why Yom Kippur is going there and taking away their sins. They see themselves as sinners, but what they do is they stick it on the scapegoat. And Donald
yes.
Trump has put a picture out of himself with a goat's head and a red tie, the scapegoat. He's taken all those sins of the messianic cult behind Zionism, not the Israeli people, Zionism, which is a Rothschild creation, and really it's Sabbateanism, and placing it on the evangelical Christians. And then you're gonna go and run off the end of the cliff like the scapegoat does, or gets lost in the woods and starves because he's using you as a sacrificial lamb. So once you understand, and I know you understand this stuff, but most people haven't got a clue about this stuff. So the symbology is everywhere. The
Mm,
rainbow is huge in terms of COVID. You're right. It was absolutely the crown virus, and it was all about taking us over into this new world beyond the rainbow. Golden age. What's at the end of the rainbow? Pot of gold. When you had, they even told you in Twitter what happened. What flew over the rainbow in the song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow"?
mm,
Bluebirds.
mm.
What happened to Twitter? It went from bluebirds
Yeah,
to X. X is a sign of Saturn, the golden age of Saturn. So once you start to decipher all this stuff, you're like, this is mad to me. And
yeah.
it's fascinating. And it all makes sense. And
And
they're all,
clever.
and it is clever.
Mm,
It is clever. But what I find really, really kind of hopeful is that a lot of us have figured this out. Like there's people that are far beyond understanding than I am that figured this out. So if they, but what is really um, great is that these guys have to stick to their code. They can't change it because then you get a Tower of Babel moment and none of them know what the hell they're doing. So they have to stick to this code. So the worst thing that can happen is that enough people wake up to what they're doing and understand the language. And that's what I try and do is decipher this language and go, look, this is what they're actually doing. It's quite clear. They're showing you every day. Donald Trump's built a new ballroom. Well, that's just the feast.
yes,
He's telling you
yeah.
because he has to follow this script. The script, the best thing about, I'm not a religious man. I don't believe the Bible was a historical event, but they are following it.
Yes, yes. I see. I put a post up on Facebook a day or two ago, and I asked the question, what if the Bible's inverted?
Mm,
What if the Bible wasn't written by a God, um, a benevolent God, but actually by something really dark and nefarious, perhaps the devil himself, if you like, in religious terms.
Yeah.
And what if the people that are running the show today, the descendants of, are basically following exactly what was instructed to them, and we have been going along with it, believing that it's the word of God and we're to follow what it says, when actually it was a set of instructions and morals for us to live by. But for them, the parasites, as I call them, it is actually script. They're following a
Mm.
script, scripture.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think it goes even deeper than that. I think what you kind of like you were saying there, I think you actually were applying that, and I've written in my book is that this is an entity, an energy from elsewhere. Remember that we don't know what happened before we were born and what goes on when we die. So no, we know there's something else. We don't stay here forever. So there is something else. So that we can agree on. What it is, we can argue till we are dead, if you want. Um, but what? So something's coming from elsewhere, and I think I agree with you. I think that that was written infused with two possibilities, a good outcome or an evil outcome. And I think the world's gone in the evil outcome that by playing that out, because in this world, this materialistic world, we are the only ones who can create in it. So by putting the power of suggestion that these things might happen in people's minds, they're actually playing it out. So does that come from an evil entity that's put the power of suggestion in these people's minds and created this beast system for it to be birthed into this world? So what I was saying on my latest videos out tonight on Ickonic is playing with luminous fire. These guys are playing luminous fire. Luminous fire sees Moses at the top of Mount Sinai talking to the burning bush. They don't know what they're letting in. And I think that they think they can trap it in here like a Ghostbuster and stick it in a quantum computer and run it from the temple. I think they've been tricked into thinking that they can control it and become gods themselves when that god is gone, I'm tricking you to open the door. I'm knocking like the vampire, and you're
Yeah.
going to let me in because of your greed and your gluttony and your stupidity. And when I'm in, all hell's breaking loose, literally breaking loose. And I mean, I'm talking in hyperbolic terminology, but I think that makes far more sense than this was written and it was prophecy. It's not. This is mind control on a global
Mm,
scale.
mm. Yeah, I think so. And like I keep saying to people, there are 4,200 recognized religions. I know there are cults and organizations, but
Yeah.
4,200 recognized religions, all really talking about the same thing. But millions of people have had to die because they disagree slightly on some terminology or who was first. And I think this is no different to picking a team to support if it's football or hockey, whatever it is. I don't see there being much difference. But to be prepared to kill someone
Mm.
because they believe something different to you, well, isn't that everything the Bible's supposed to be against? Isn't that the complete reverse? And the Roman Catholic Church, hold the gold medal for killing people because of their religious views.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
in the name of God. And the people that they didn't kill, that were took under their wings, like girls in convents, for example, and the indigenous peoples in America, just as another example. Where's the benevolence in anything that they've ever done? And I also think that the Vatican vaults, I think they have absolutely no right whatsoever to hide things from the public. What has given them that right? And they say they're here representing God. Well, is God aware of that? What did he interview them? Do you know what I mean? Well, where has this come from? It's come from their own belief that
Mm.
they have a God-given right, and to tell us what to do. And if we do what they say, they'll have a word with God because they're on first name terms, and they'll get you in heaven. But you're probably going to need to spend a few quid along the way. This is going to cost you. This won't be free.
Oh, it's just insane, isn't it? They're selling you what you've already got.
Mm,
They're selling you what you have. Like they don't know what's going to happen to them when they die. They're probably terrified. That's why they want to live forever
mm,
as well, because they are terrified of death. and death is Chronos. And actually, I go into this. The main theme about my film I Am Immortal is why are these people so obsessed
So
with staying
this is your
alive?
film and your book, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's the same thing. I
Yeah.
expand it on it in the book, but the film
Mm.
obviously is a 60-minute film. You can only get so much in. But why are they so scared of death? Because they want to live forever. Why do they want to become immortal? Upanishadim, which is the early version of Noah, wanted to become immortal. There's people in those stories who become immortal. There's obviously the whole promise of the religious promises you will become immortal with me in the heavens. But these people want to be physically immortal. This cult. Because they are terrified of death. And what is death? It's another version of the character Kronos, Saturn, Old Father Time. It is death. They are terrified of dying because they don't know what's on the other side of that, but they know they've been absolutely horrible to people here. So they know that they can control the world here. They physically want to stay here in this world. And that's what's sad about seeing them use the evangelical Christians, especially with the rapture nonsense, which we know came from the Schofield Bible much later on. It's a digital upload. They're going to offer them a digital upload rapture. You're going to go up with Jesus at the end. All you got to do is upload your brain to Netcom, which I wrote about today. Actual company that want to do this, that Sam Altman of OpenAI is involved with and paid money to do it. Um, they're going to sell that as your digital rapture. You're just offing yourself. You're literally, it's a death cult, but they want you to die and they to live forever here. Even if it's a facsimile of them living, they won't really be them, will it? But they'll sell it that way.
Yeah.
They'll sell it that way. And they don't know what's going to happen when they die because nobody does. We don't. We have ideas and we have hopes. We have maybe a gut feeling. I don't believe anyone actually knows. And even if they say they've been there and come back, how do you know you really went there? Like you don't
Yes.
until your time comes. I think that when we accept that, actually the world will be a much better place because like, I'm fucking not here for long. Might as well just
Mm.
enjoy. Like, what is the point in spending all your life killing other people and having
Mm.
anxiety and feeling terrible and worrying about everything? When actually, if we just shared a bit, we'd actually have quite a nice time here, and then whatever comes next. It's
We
it's
need to get rid of certain people to
it's
enable that to happen, though, don't
but
we?
it's because they want to control
Mm.
death. They can't control. No, we are totally out of control. This is chaotic, but it doesn't have to be as extreme. And they play the polarities off against each other. That's why when you go to vote, you go to the polling station. That's why you vote between the red and the blue, because one's negative and one's positive. That's why they understand the nature of reality. And as you said earlier, energies. They play with energies because they are alchemists.
Mm.
But we're alchemists too. They're because the only energy they have is ours. So all you've got to do is change you can only do your bit at your science table. I can only put this information out there in an alchemical way. I'm changing the nature of reality, and so are you, in a way that we think is the right way to do it. We're not forcing anyone to say it. We're saying, look, this is what I believe these guys are doing, and these guys are making up the rules that you have to live by, and they're not going to be good. Um, but I'm gonna be gone one day. So I hopefully like my alchemical contribution here is a positive one. It could be
Mm.
positive or negative. The issue they've had is what they've done, and it's through Crowley and the likes of they've turned everything inside out. So positive is negative and negative is positive. They live in the upside down world. I don't know if you've seen um what's that thing about the Montauk Project? Stranger Things, where
Yes.
it's a great series. I really enjoyed
Mm.
it for what it is, and clearly it's about the Montauk project to
Yeah.
start off with. But then it goes into this upside down world, which is the inside out world. Which, when you look at the tree of life, the Kabbalah tree of life, there's one with the tree on top, but with the roots underneath. It's
Mm.
just,
Yeah.
it's a mirror image. That's
Mm.
what they've done. They're showing you how these occultists think. That's what it's all about. The whole series is about the mind of these lunatics.
Mm.
So this dark entity that comes after them is an egregore. They created it because nothing can come in here without our say so. That these are the same themes over and over again. That we're inviting these things in, but we're creating these things. So this whole messianic agenda is just a suggestion. It could be so different if people realize the power that they had, but they're being played off against each other by the
Mm.
polarities, and it's sad to see. It really is sad to see.
I think voting's probably one of the best examples of that. When you referred earlier on to the positive and negative, and it's always red and blue. I
Always.
mean, and people, all they need to do is, because you won't have one to hand, but Google a magnet, and they're always red and blue. The
Yeah,
traditional magnets that they show you absolutely everything they're doing. Um, but you mentioned earlier on that they're scared of what happens at the end.
yeah.
But if they worship something dark and satanic, then at the end, I'm guessing they don't want to end up where they don't want to end up in what we would refer to as hell.
Mm.
They want to go to heaven, yet they're working for the opposition. And it's
That's because they want to bring it down to earth. So when you look at the Chabad guys, Schneerson said he was the seventh rabbi. They're always seven because she says 7 days of the week. So they always stop at seven. It's their completion in Lurianic Kabbalah. Um, he says our job is not to get into heaven, but to bring heaven down to earth.
right.
They don't want to go to die. They want to superimpose it down here. That's what it's all about. And that is in itself chemistry. That's collapsing the two polar opposites into one, which is who's doing that at the moment? CERN, smashing
Mm,
atoms together to annihilate it. It's a great reset. Start again. Wipe it all out. Start again. We can build something better. So there's all of these understandings, and they kind of you become tuned into it, to the understanding because it's the same mentality. So you see it patterned in everything like a hologram. So their behavior in one aspect is the same as behavior in another aspect. That's why your fruit that you say they say by their fruits you'll know them because it literally is a carbon copy because of carbon and light. Carbon, it's a
yeah.
carbon copy of everything. So Yahweh, Kronos, Saturn, Satan, these Iblis, the Archons, Yaldabaoth, Demiurge. In my book, I write that this is all about one energy. I call it the evil creator God because it's the same energy, whatever name you give it, it doesn't matter. And you can become that if you want to. It's an option. You can become an evil creator God or you can be a benevolent creator. It's up to you. God's a loaded term, but that's what they use because none of it exists without this. And
Yeah.
they're tapping into you. They know how you work. So when you see the likes of Tommy Robinson and all these lot winding up everybody in the UK about Muslims, they don't realize that. Well, I think Tommy Robinson probably does to a certain degree, but most people don't realize is that he is playing in a polarity in a triangulation between Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, which is the perfect triangulation, Abrahamic religions for them all to take each other out eventually, for the
Yeah.
Sabbateans that work through all. So the Saudi royals are fake Saudi royals. They're Ashkenazim. They're Sabbateans. Netanyahu's a Sabbatean. Trump's a Sabbatean. These are Sabbateans that have gone into all parts of this system and they're playing them off against each other because they know that these religions and these faiths and these beliefs are nonsense. They're the shells that they hide within. Their religion is Satanism. It's the inversion of everything.
Yeah.
So they want to flip everything inside out. So once you see how their behavior is, you're like, "Oh, I can spot you a mile off. Mile off. You're so obvious. Because your eyes, also their eyes can't, it just gives the game away. They can't lie with their eyes. It's obvious. Um, and a lot of them are trapped in it. But the Tommy Robinsons are here just pushing that one polarity, that civil war here.
Yeah.
Over in the US, you've got the same thing going on there. It's the Muslims' fault and all of this and that. Actually, it's the Sabbateans within the Muslim faith, really at the deep core, which are these Saudi rules that are fake Saudi rules, Ashkenazim. It's those in the Jewish faith that are Chabad, which again, Sabbatean, Lurianic Kabbalists. It's those in the Jesuits who are Sabbatean, which as you rightly look at yourself with Adam Weishaupt and all of these guys that went in there and infiltrated the what were the Masons back then. You've got the Catholic Church at its core, it's Sabbatean because it's a behavior. People look for labels. I'm like, no, but it's a behavior trait. They go in and they turn it inside out from it within. All of these, they say Like in the intelligence agencies, oh, he's a double agent, he's a double triple agent, he's a triple triple double agent. What do you
Yeah.
think he's doing? He's flipping inside out.
Mm.
That's what they do. They flip it upside down. They turn it inside out. They twist it. Oh, what a tangled web. They weave. So you know you can spot them a mile off what they're doing. And my whole mission is about doing all this stuff is about teaching people how to read these lunatics.
Are there any names that would surprise people?
I think so. Well, on a main level, yeah, Elon Musk would be a big one that would surprise people. Elon Musk was born into a family of technocrats in South Africa. He's deeply involved with the occult. He dresses up as Iron Man, which is Mars Man, because iron is the element of Mars and I think it's Guvura in Kabbalah, which is the fifth element, which is sorry, not the fifth element, the fifth planet, which is Mars. So, and that's the planet of judgment. That's why he's dressed as this god of judgment with the Baphomet head on it, which is Ramfan. So he would be one that is clearly unaware of the occult, but he has got Asperger's. So I wonder how much he's being used as well. And he was born into it. He was named
Yeah.
after a character called Elon, obviously, in a Von Braun
Yes, about
novel,
the man who
Project
travels
Mars.
to Mars to
And he was the
populate,
character that
colonize, sorry.
colonized Mars in terms of
Mm,
taking humanity there. He's playing a character, and he's probably been led because of his Asperger's to believe that that's his role in life. I kind of
mm,
feel sorry for him, but he's definitely not on the right side of things. So he
mm.
would be a major one. King Charles, obviously, is
Yeah.
descendants of Vlad the Impaler. I mean, that's not a hard one to find out. He's best mates with Jimmy Savile. You've got all of these
Mm,
paedophiles hanging around these royals because that's what they do, because this energy of paedophilia allows these entities into this world, and that's been written for thousands of years. It's not something I've come up with. That's thousands of years worth of sacrificial rites going, passing children through the flame of Moloch and all of this stuff. This is stuff they believe in. Whether we believe it or not is a different matter. But I believe in the energies of what they can do with this stuff.
yeah.
But they totally believe in it. So there's a few. I mean, Bill Gates is an obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah.
George Soros is an obvious one.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Elon Musk is the only one who really gets put on a pedestal of saving the world, and Donald Trump. But I think most people that aren't in the Trump camp see through him by a mile off. Jared Kushner is a Habadnik as well, so he will be definitely in there. Baron Trump is an interesting one. The Baron Trump
Mm,
Tales of Baron Trump is an interesting one, isn't it?
yeah.
Because all the time travel stuff with that. So
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
yeah. There's a lot going on in terms of eugenics as well.
Mm. So, what led you on this journey? This particular subject, why
Do you know what?
this?
I always I've been doing this for about 20 years, so in terms of actually looking into this content, but it was a book actually, it was only a few years back, about 3 years ago. I read a book called Beware the World to Come by Christopher John Biertness. And he maps out the Kabbalah and the Lurianic Kabbalah. And he puts it in context of putting certain people in, like politicians and certain characters. And it makes sense in a lot of ways, but I don't 100% buy into that part of it. But it does make sense, and I mean, he knows what he's talking about. But just understanding the Lurianic Kabbalah and what all the terms were, and the psychology of what it means, the inside out stuff, working your way up, epiphany, working your way up the tree of life, and what it means to go down, the shattering of the shards of the original God that got trapped in these Kelly pots, which is all really weaves its way into Gnosticism as well. Understanding all of that stuff allowed me to put all the pieces together in my mind and understand how to read what these guys are doing. Now, that doesn't mean the Kabbalah is evil. It doesn't mean that Gnosticism is evil. Not that's ridiculous. Of course, it's not. It's energy and information. But these guys specifically use these things for a certain system. So it was that book, and Beware the World to Come, Christopher John Biertness, that really opened up in terms of the Kabbalah and understanding that system, which I know is very central to the Freemasonic system as well, and Gnosticism, Nag Hammadi text. I understand that David's work was massive, I think, for most people, the biggest secret, and his latest book is really the road map I'm reading now is a really good update on all the religious side of things as well. Um, so there's lots of works out there. Dean Henderson's another one who doesn't get spoken about. He wrote some Illuminati books. But that was the main book. The Kabbalah, just
Yeah.
understanding the Kabbalah of like,
Mm,
this is mad. And I see this everywhere. And now I understand what this is. And that's taken me probably 2.5 years to actually start to understand to a certain degree, no expert, what it is. And it's blatant.
yeah. It is strange, isn't it? It's like with me with Tartaria. As soon as you know what you're looking for, it doesn't matter what I'm watching on YouTube, or even if we put a Netflix film on, it doesn't matter where we go. As long as it's not a brand new city like Milton Keynes, for example,
Mm,
wherever we go, I just see evidence everywhere, and I walk around and drive around thinking, why is nobody else seeing this? And
yeah.
once you know what to look for, nowhere looks the same again. And then you start thinking of all the places you wish you could go back to, knowing what you know now, or if only I knew when I was there what I know now. And I find it very strange that whatever path you walk with regard to what we'd label as conspiracy theories, once you've found one that really engages with you, everything changes. The way you look at everything changes forever.
It does. The Kabbalah was the one, the Lurianic Kabbalah, by the way, because there's many different spellings of it and all sorts. But that system really did it for me, and that opened me up to understanding what the Chabad guys were about. So these are the guys in Brooklyn that wear the black hats and
Mm.
often seen around Putin, and Putin's got one called Lazar. He's his Rebbe. They are positioned as kind of open-minded Orthodox Jews from really at the very top level. I'm not talking about the young guys, but the top level of the older guys, the Sabbateans. These are the guys that were caught digging tunnels underneath their headquarters in Brooklyn not too long ago. I'm sure that most people remember
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And then, so it led me to understand what they believe and what they're doing, and that opened up the understanding that these people, the men in black, are these guys. The men in black, in my opinion, are these guys. These are the handlers of the ideological handlers of the likes of Trump and Netanyahu, Putin. They pledge allegiance to these guys. They're not in charge. They're not. They're well below the likes of the black nobility, in my opinion, and the Crown Corporation. But they certainly bring that religious ideology that goes into Sabbateanism, which comes from the Ari, he called him, which was Isaac Luria, um, and that was kind of really what set off Sabbatean Frankism. And Sabbateanism comes from that same understanding. And Sabbateanism is kind of like a it turns everything that is about the Jewish faith on its head. Most people of the Jewish faith are lovely people, obviously. Most people are like the Freemasons. Most people at the lower levels are just trying to do business and they're decent people because they hide in shells. They have to build that shell of respectability and protection around them. So when you have a go at them, you go, oh, you're having a go at the Jews. No, I'm not having a go at
Mm.
Sabbatean Frankists who are using the Jews as a shield. That's why they call themselves the Red Shield, the Rothschild. And they'll tell you this. Like they used a red shield. The Rothschilds funded much of the Second World War, which resulted, purposely so, in many of those of the Jewish faith, the real Jewish faith, going, and they were Polish and Turkish. They weren't the Israelites, going over to what we call now modern day Israel. That was the red shield. Now the red polarity repels. It's the mal aspect. And what color is the blue flag? Sorry, I'll just give it away. What color is the is the flag of Israel? It's the blue
Mm.
shield
Mm.
because it's the Shekinah and it's the protective bringing in. They use these polarities. So the Red Shield, the Rothschilds were pushing, they were called Bauer originally, by the way, which fits in with one of Toby Robinson's mates who does all of this stuff, and his company's called Bauer Security, which is ridiculous. So they were pushing, the Red Shield were pushing those of the Jewish faith to fulfill these prophecies over to start, because they needed to get that land of modern day Israel, which they have no care for those of the Jewish faith, obviously. They were funding much of World War II, and they've used the blue version of it on the flag to bring them in because they believe in these polarities and these energies. And once you understand it, you understand that that's what they were doing. So they were called Red Shield because they had the red shield, Star of David, on the front of their house. Now, that Star of David is the symbol on the Ring of Solomon. The Ring of Solomon was used to conjure up the powers of the spirits. I don't believe there was a Solomon, but take the
Don't you?
mythology for it. I don't actually. What? No, I don't. I believe there was a person kind of along those lines, but the
Mm,
mythology again gets put around the individual. Like there could have been a Jesus person, but the mythology around him is nonsense. So they kind of take something and co-opt it. But no, because the only reason I say that is because all Solomon means sun, all three terms, and I think that is Sol on are all terms for the sun. So I don't believe there was a Solomon's Temple. No, definitely not. But and there's no evidence there was a second or first or second temple, other than the Wailing Wall, which really could have been a Roman fort. Most people think it's a Roman fort. Um, but even if there was, it's fascinating. If there was, it might be a person called King Solomon. He had a ring called the Solomon's Ring, and that was alleged. It had the Star of David on it, which is the Star of Rempham or the Seal of Solomon, and that was alleged to be able to harness the powers of energies, both good and evil. So really, what it was at its center was a hex, because at the center
yes.
of the
Mm,
Star of Seal of Solomon is the the hexagram. Always get them mixed up. Hex,
mm.
hexagon,
Hexagon.
hexagon at the center.
Mm,
So what do you call it when you conjure up someone? You put a hex on them. You
yeah.
stand inside the hex. We have the same with the 5-pointed star in terms of turning it upside down being the pentagram,
Yeah.
pentagon. These are shapes that you stand within to be conjured into contact with the spirit, or a spirit to be conjured up. This is the belief anyway. So with the Seal of Solomon, that was the hex. So they put that on the flag in the middle. And then when you get the hexagon in the middle, and you put the hexagram around the side, so the same hexagon
Yeah.
around the top becomes it becomes the cube of Saturn, because this is all shapes and symbols and holograms, and they
Yeah.
work with these things. And I'd be interested. Do you think there was a Solomon?
Well, that's obviously the purpose of Freemasonry, as you're told when you join, and
Yeah.
at the lower levels, that because the reason that they wear mourning suits is because they're in permanent mourning for Hiram Abiff's murder
Mm-hmm.
by the three Jews,
Yeah.
which was Juwes, and it was written on the wall at one of Jack the Ripper's crime scenes. Um, and I think they were, I can't remember, one of them had a different name, but they all began with the letter Jew. I think two of them were called Julian or Jules
Okay.
or
Yeah.
something
I
like that.
remember it.
But he wouldn't give over the secrets within Freemasonry to three ruffians, as they're referred to, and so he was killed because he refused to hand over this information. So you're in permanent mourning for Hiram Abiff, who King Solomon buried on the inside of the temple walls,
Mm-hmm.
which was normally an area only reserved for priests, and Hiram Abiff was an architect, but he held him in such high regard that he buried him with the priests. Um, so King Solomon and King Solomon's temple, if you like, along with the architect, are kind of the foundations really of Freemasonry at the lower levels, at least what they call craft.
Mm-hmm.
And most people only get to where I did, which was the third rung of 33, and it's a master mason. That's where most people get to and stay.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Regardless if there's any truth to it or not, I think, like as you say, in an egregore, it really doesn't matter in that sense because it builds that energy. But I do find that absolutely fascinating, that stuff. And again, like as you say, there was King David. So this kind of brings,
Mm.
if there wasn't a Solomon, it brings into kind of question all of this bloodline of the Israelites going back to Abraham and Jacob, who became Israel. And that goes all the way back to Noah, who really was Uptanishtim because there was no Noah. And and it goes back to
Now he's obviously
Adam.
referred to in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Emerald Tablets, and
Yeah,
so on. So we're now talking, in my mind at least, we're talking Anunnaki.
I believe too. Yeah.
But in obviously biblical terms, the Anunnaki and are the Nephilim.
The Nephilim, yeah. Well, they're the son. The Elohim are
Mm,
the Elohim and the Nephilim were the hybrids, weren't they? The sons
mm.
and I mean, there is some. I think there's some absolute truth to all of this. I think it's allegory telling you about how humans were created and spliced with beings from elsewhere. And I think that the Ark of the Covenant is a representation of technology. They were able to talk to these beings outside our visible light spectrum. I think all of that is true. I think we take like the underlining themes of it. I think there's absolute truth to it all. I don't think the specifics are anywhere near true, but I don't think that matters. It's the essence of these stories. I do absolutely believe are true. I believe there was an Anunnaki type beings. It's quite clear there was something. Who built the pyramids? Who built all of these
Yeah.
buildings? There's absolutely no way that we did that. There was technology, sound technology. There was
Mm.
vibrational technology. They were able to weaponize, or not weaponize. Well, they probably did weaponize it. They were able to use electromagnetic spectrum. They were able to see these gods at some point. That's why they built these monuments to them. So I believe that's absolutely true, but they're not gods. They're beings that live in just outside our visible light spectrum,
Mm.
which are the archons in terms of the Gnostics and that. I think it's quite clear there's a lot of truth to that, and I think we're going to find out in the next couple of hundred years that a lot of this is true, but it's not in the way it's been served up at all.
Well, they're talking about actually the Anunnaki returning quite soon. I keep hearing that, and I was listening to something yesterday, and they were saying that the CIA have even been
Really?
stating that they believe that, yeah, that the they're going to be very close to us quite soon. Apparently, their planet comes close every so many
Mm,
thousand years.
okay.
I can't remember exactly how long it is, maybe 3,200. I can't remember or 3,600. I can't remember, but and that's up quite soon, relatively soon, and that they're preparing for it.
I wouldn't be surprised. They ransacked the museums in Iraq on
Mm,
purpose. They got rid of a lot of stuff there. There's underground stuff going on everywhere, especially in New Mexico, in the Caribbean islands, and New York is huge for underground stuff. I mean, there is a world within a world here that I think is starting to come to the fore. And like people like Jeffrey Epstein, the reason why that won't go away is because that's a real key link to what's going on underground with all of these weird experiments and stuff. It won't go away because it just links into far too much. It's too
mm,
widespread. It's not him. But the reason why it won't go away is because he's linked to this transhumanist agenda massively. It's nothing.
mm,
He was trafficking young people and doing the blackmail stuff, but that was the very top, literally top level of what he was doing. So that links into Trump. That links into cloning, clone aid. That links into Dulce Base, into Trementina site, which is the Church of Spiritual Technology in New Mexico. It links into Los Alamos National Laboratory. All of those things have underground facilities, and I believe they're all connected. Zorro Ranch is not far away from either of them. You've got the Roswell crash there. I think all of these things are linked. They have to be. They're too close for comfort. And you've got the underground facilities, I believe, that are on the island, Epstein's Island, that he covered up with cement, £500,000 cement truck 3 weeks before he was arrested or it was raided. That links in with the surrounding locations like St. Bart's Island. There's transhumanist stuff going on there. That Elon Musk, just for example, Elon Musk had his 13th child, that number again, with a lady called Ashley St. Clair. Well, now we know who the St. Clairs are, don't we? Who are well back into the black nobility families.
yeah.
Now she had a child with Elon Musk, 13th child, and she named it Romulus, from Romulus and Remus, who are the two children that were brought up by a she-wolf and went on to found Rome. And guess where that child was conceived? St.
Rome.
St. Bart's Island, which is the
Oh,
island
sorry.
right next to Epstein Island, the same one P. Diddy was trafficking people on, Epstein was
Oh,
on.
shit.
There's something going on under there. So he's named after a child that was brought up by a she-wolf. And the picture of the that they used was her looking, she's a pretty girl, looking into a mirror again. So it's the reflection, and she's wearing a black dress with a silver moon on her hip.
Hmm.
Fucking she-wolf, werewolves, because they are doing this stuff. There's stuff going on under the island. They all had submarines around there as well. There was a
Yeah.
Rockefeller mansion on right on the end of St. Bart's Island, still there now. It's desolate. You've got one of the guys that basically controls Putin. He used to run a football team, Chelsea football team, forgot his Abramovich.
Hmm.
He owns a lot of property and pretty much runs St. Bart's Island. Um, there's something big going on here that has people can't get their heads around. And I've been talking about it for 2.5 years now. And it's to do with the Kabbalah, and it's to do with the moon child of Crowley, and it's to do with Rosemary's Baby. and it has to do with bringing this Antichrist thing into a vessel, a husk. They believe that they're doing these things. As mad as it sounds, go and have a look at Crowley and Jack Parsons' connection to the Trinity site. Where was the Trinity site? New Mexico. There's an alleged incident there when the Trinity explosion happened. There was a massive bottle there with the fetus of one of, um, uh, what was his name? I just mentioned him. Uh,
Apparently,
no, the
Jack
Jack
Parsons.
Parsons' child with the lady who was um the what was her name? I've got this red. She wore the red dress, but I can't remember what her name is now. I'll come back to me. But they had a child together that didn't survive. But they allegedly put the fetus in this bottle for it to be infused with the explosion from the Trinity site test that would infuse this being through a rip in the veil into the body. I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying, but these are the alleged. They all connect. Jack Parsons and um was in the Crowley cult with L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard is the guy that started
Scientology.
Scientology,
Mm,
and what's in New Mexico?
mm,
The Church of Spiritual Technologies Trementina site, which is the vaults that contain cryogenically all of the works of L. Ron Hubbard. These things aren't accidents. They're
mm.
not accidents. There's cryogenic experiments going on there. Absolutely. R.C. Ettinger was a writer of, he's called the father of cryonics, which is cryogenics. He wrote a story called The Penultimate Trump. And in The Penultimate Trump, this guy lives, he's the richest man in the world. When he dies, he wants to live forever. He's scared of dying. Comes back 300 years later. He's paid for all the technology to happen. But he's sent to pay for his sins of hurting other people because he wasn't a very nice person. And his punishment was met out on Mars. And it was called Hell. So all these things. So you've got Elon Musk and Mars there, penultimate
Yeah.
Trump. All of these things. R.C. Essinger is well known within these transhumanist agendas. So there is so much to this that's far darker and deeper than Epstein trafficking young girls. I've worked with Juliet Bryant for 2.5 years on working on her story. She said she woke up paralyzed and naked under on a laboratory table at while she was kept at Zorro Ranch, which we know she was. And guess who was there that night with her? She says anyway. Um, the film director. What was his name? He filmed. He made the film. He made Transformers. But he also made The Island. Forgot his name. And he used to work with Les
Yeah.
Wexner. And he did the commercials for Les Wexner's companies. I can't remember his name at the top of my head. It
No, I
should come
can't
back to
either.
me.
And I can see it as well.
Yeah, I can see it. Well, so she said he was there with Epstein.
He's done loads of stuff.
He has. And he came out with the film in 2003, The Island, which is about clones
Yeah, with
escaping
you,
from underneath
Ewan
the island.
McGregor. Yeah.
Well, she said he was there at Zorro Ranch in 2002.
And
Um,
yeah.
it's it's insane.
S- Oh, that's still bugging me. That's going to
It's
bug me
Brian
until.
something. I think it's something or Brian something along them lines. Forgot his name. Um, But yeah, it's insane when you look at all the
Mm,
connections. She said she woke up paralyzed and naked there. She actually said to me, I'm not saying this is true, but she said to me, she said she saw because she was abused by Epstein. At the moment of climax, Epstein shapeshifted into something weird looking, alien looking. Now that
really?
sounds out there mad. That could have been hallucination. It could have been trauma. But then take it back to what's happened, the alleged tales of Dulcie Base, of
Mm,
Trementina site, all of these things that are going on underneath Los Alamos National Laboratory. That isn't beyond the realms of possibility if we're living in a visible light spectrum. So you've got to just kind of say, this is mad,
mm.
but it doesn't mean these people haven't been trying to do some pretty weird shit.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And they have. And that's what they're trying to keep on the lid on, not his trafficking, not his little black book, not who went on the act. Who cares who went on the Lily Express? I want to know who went on the submarines.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
who was under the water. And guess who's what the protection of Shekinah is? It's the deep blue water. And who else started a company praising the sea and keeping the sea? Ghislaine Maxwell started her own company
Mm,
about the seas, and she had her own submarine and submarine
Yeah, she's
license
qualified pilot. Yeah, yeah.
because there's something going on underneath those islands. That's why,
Mm,
and they don't want you to know about it. Um, but it can't stay like anything. It's like a volleyball. They can't keep it underwater forever, and
mm,
they're desperate. So Trump being in the files and all of that, that's the reason why they're so scared, in my opinion, is that this is the real stuff they don't want coming out. Because there's
yeah.
something really messed up going on here to do with Rosemary's Baby and the Moonchild. The
Mm,
Moonchild, by the way, was a book written by Alistair Crowley about, it's the same as Rosemary's Baby, pretty much. And the thing is that when they take these girls to be infused with the demon spirit, they take them to the butterfly's nest. All of these girls the main girls that were abused by Epstein used the blue butterfly, including Juliet Bryan, as a symbol in some way or other, which is the blood, which is can be either it can be a symbol of I forgot the name of it. The good one, the bad one is Lilith, because Lilith is said in cryptology to be a shape shifting being who was the first wife of Eve, by
yeah,
Adam, by the way,
Adam.
who
Yeah.
could shift into a blue butterfly. Um, there's all of this cryptology behind it as well. When you really look into it, it's very dark. And she was the one that's, yeah, the first wife of Eve. I'm sorry, Adam, and
Mm,
the mother of Cain, because she was the male aspect of Satan, because they're dual, male and female.
yeah.
They have, in the one, they're androgynous. It gets. This is why learning this stuff is really important. That's why the whole androgynous, transhumanist, transgender thing was being pushed. And the rainbow was used for the LGBTQ because it was all part of the Noahide new world to come. They call it they call it Olam Haba, which is their world to come. So all connects. So I've got all this in my film and all my books, but it's like
Wow.
this stuff is just so obvious. And I'm not saying I believe they can do these things. I believe that they are
Yeah.
trying to do these things. And that's why you're seeing Gaza flattened, because it's part of the Greater Israel project is to build, and they need to build that temple. That's why. They're mad. They're utterly mad. And that's why, and you tell me that why, if you look at the beliefs of this messianic Chabad lot, who are Sabbatean in my opinion, and look at what's happened in the Middle East with 70 plus thousand Palestinians dead, including 20,000 children, and connect that to the fact that these Chabad guys are always around and connected in with Donald Trump, Netanyahu, and Putin, and tell me there is not a connection there to why
Mm,
they want to build the third temple. There is. It's a messianic one, and they're lunatics, and they will tell you. They call us the Amalekites, Amaleks. They say that we need to be wiped out, and that's what Donald. So then, when you come to, um, so if we're Amalek, the West, Rome,
yeah.
Edom, which is what John B. Ernest came his conclusion. David says it in his new book as well, but even other people have been speaking about this. But Christopher was the first one I knew about. He said that they see Rome, the West, as the Amaleks to be fallen, has to fall because they hate the Romans. That's why you're seeing Tommy Robinson causing problems in the UK between the Muslims and the Christians who will annihilate each other, and Donald Trump in America, because Rome is supposed to fall. And have a look at Washington, D.C. It was called Rome, Maryland. Look at the buildings, exactly the same as Rome. Look at the Seven Hills, Capitol Hill, Capitoline Hill. It's all set up. And, you sit there some days, you go, either I'm mental or this stuff is true, because one of the other's got to happen. I've lost the plot or I've found the plot. It's one of them.
So how far away do you think you are from your book being published?
I've got about 50 pages to do, so I'm hoping late January. But I mean, I'm new to this, so I've been asking you for advice because how to get it published. So I think the boys at the Iconic guys are going to help me as well, which is a big, like, nice machine to have behind it. And so hopefully the end of January the book's out, but the film is out on iconic.com. I'm
Well, we
Immortal.
can
You can
watch
see
that
it
now.
now, and it's only 1.99 for your first month, and it's 7.99 after that if you want to stay with us. But 1.99 you can watch the film, and you can watch everything else we do on a weekly basis. I have two shows doing this sort of stuff. Jamie and Gareth do trending pretty much every 5 days a week. And then they have their own shows as well on there. And David has a show called Legacy where he looks over his old books. And he also asks, you have Asked David where people can put in questions. Christiana, who works with us, she has her own show, Messengers, on there, which is more into the esoteric stuff. There's loads of stuff. We have films and documentaries and series coming out every week on there, and there's articles on there that we all write. So a lot of content comes out each week for 1.99 for your first month, 7.99 after that, and it's an alternative Netflix, and we've built it up
Yes.
for 6 years, and it's taken us. It's a lot of work for a small team, but we've I feel so grateful to do this for a living. I can't believe how lucky I am to get to do this for a living. So
So
I
how did it come about? What started your journey into conspiracy theories, and how did
um,
you end up? Obviously, you knew Gareth
yeah,
beforehand, but how did you end up meeting Gareth, and how did you start this journey?
it was always so when I was younger, I never believed anything that they were telling us in history. So I've always thought it was very funny and quite obviously not true. But with this specifically looking into this, I was always making video content, documentaries, and music and films and creating. But I always knew there was something else going on. This all just was mad. But I started my own podcast called Glitching the Code. I think it was about 10 years, 12 years ago, probably longer than that. And I started interviewing people in this realm, and I got to know Gaz pretty quickly. And then we started filming. I went to film with him in London, a little documentary thing. And then a year later, like he said to me about Iconic, they wanted to start with his brother. I mean, this is 6, 7 years. This 7 years ago now, and maybe even 8. And then a year later, I went and met Jamie, and we started it. Obviously, I knew I was a fan of David's work at the time, and I read David's work, but I was reading. It was a slow process for me, so it's really hard for me to pick a point.
Yeah,
I started the first book I ever read about this sort of stuff. Have I got it here? No, the first book I ever read, it's over there, was a book by a guy that used to be in the band that wrote "Love Is All Around," and he he's a great book, and he did a not Wet Wet Wet. It was before them.
yeah,
Um, I can't remember his name now, and he did a really good book on crop circles, and I was like, this is fascinating. And then that was part of the book, and then he started to talk about the what's it called? The something gold. It's like mana. It's the same thing as mana, obviously, that you find in the Ark of the Covenant. It's supposed to heal things, and stop you aging. It was called something gold, monatomic gold. So he talked about monatomic gold and how it was found and farmed and what it could be used for. And I just found it fascinating. And I just started reading more and more from there, and David stuff and Jordan Maxwell and loads of people through the years. Like I still find loads of authors that I've never, like yourself, that I'd never even heard of before that I would come along to eventually. And it's like these pieces of the puzzle come in. But yeah, David was one of the earliest conspiracy books, but
yeah.
there wasn't that much around. I mean, 20 years ago, really, other than David and Alex Jones when he was still like at least pretending to fight them. And
I think David's been an inspiration for a lot of people. I
yeah,
mean, now obviously I was saying this to the lads on a podcast called Sheep Farm, Dom and Chris,
yeah.
and I was saying to them that the amount of people now that say that David's a psyop. The latest one is he's a shape-shifting reptilian himself, and the irony being, like the lads on Sheep Farm said, the irony with that is that he was the first person to put that information out there, and now people have decided he's one as well. And I think, where did you draw the bloody line with this?
Well, you don't. I mean, he's never done it in front of me, and I've known him for 7 years. So he's he'll find that funny. Like he's got a good sense of humor about all this stuff. Like he's got a very silly sense of humor. Like he laughs at really stupid puns and stuff like that. But it's the nature of what we do, isn't it, guys?
Hmm,
You can't get into this thing without starting to think other people are up to no good. It's the nature
hmm.
of it. And then as an adult, you have to temper that down and bring that down. And they'll find anything on you. Like my great great granddad was a Freemason. I was speaking to you and you were Freemasons. And that makes me a fucking,
Yeah,
you've entered that world. So it comes with territory. If you get something wrong or slightly different or they don't agree with something, you're shill and all, you know, do your own podcast thing. Go and do your own work and bring your own information in. So it just becomes part of it. David's obviously more than used to after 40 plus or 40 years nearly
Yeah.
of doing this stuff. But that's what happens when you tell people that stuff they don't want to hear. They'll get
Mm.
angry and then they'll say, call you an idiot or moron, and then they'll hide behind their fake profile, and then that's it.
Yes.
And you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
you
all
see
right.
that a lot.
I don't
Yeah.
mind people saying stuff, say what you want, but at least like at least we've got the courage to put our real names to things, our real face
Mm.
to things, our real being. You know who I am. Like they know who you are. They know who wrote that book. They can come and see you at one of your events. They can, speak to you online and watch your videos. I have respect for that, no matter what anyone's saying. Like I don't agree with Alex Jones 99% of the time now, but I have respect for anyone who puts themselves out there in a way that they think that whether he's doing it or not, I'm sure he's probably corrupt now because of his court case. And that really was ridiculous. That wasn't his fault. So I have sympathy for that too. But, anyone who puts themselves out there with this sort of weird information, it takes a lot of courage and
Mm.
character building. So anyone who sits at home behind a fake profile and a fake name, just you do it yourself then. Do
I
it
always
yourself.
find it strange when I see fake names. I understand that some people use fake names because they're putting content out there that they're on thin ice with close friends, loved ones, member of family. So they've set up perhaps two accounts. One is their regular one. I get that. That makes sense, to hide behind something if you don't want to, fall out with your family. But a lot of them, I now don't know if I'm talking to a person or a bot. And I think I
Maybe.
don't. The name looks fake. There are no profile pictures at all, and it does tend to come from people like that. I mean, you get the odd
Yeah.
silly comment. People do put some strange things up. Um, I put a post up on Facebook about Adolf Hitler, and I said because it's a very sensitive subject,
Mm.
I'm referring you to a blog on my website that I've just written, and but the guts of it is this, and there are so many conspiracy theories surrounding him. I thought you might want to have a look into them, and here they are in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
And people started putting some really strange things up. People that were very pro him, um, that he was Walt Disney, which I've heard a few times, and he was this and he was that, and then of course the Jew bit comes into it where we start talking about Jews and my literally last sentence of the post was be mindful of others before you comment on this. It's a sensitive
Yeah.
topic.
Self-joke, of course it is.
We don't want to offend anyone. I'm not looking to offend anyone. I'm asking questions. Um, but please, if you're going to comment, we've got to be respectful and careful. And I think, you know,
Deluge, yeah. It's a
yeah, and I just think, and the comments that were the ones that I had to remove were no profile picture.
Yeah, because I get that about the Hitler one. It's hilarious at the moment. I'm getting people even on the Iconic site that having a go at me because I don't believe Hitler was a good person. I thought that was a fucking given. But like I have nuance. I think he was tricked and I think he was used. I think he was abused like anyone else in the system. I think he was drugged off his head half the time. But it doesn't mean I can have nuance. I can still think he was probably not a particularly nice person and that he wasn't like some of the things that you said about him aren't true too. Like there are nuances here. But I get that as well. Like especially from the British lot and that lot. It's like they are being used and they don't understand how they're being used. I mean,
Mm,
there is evidence that he was a Rothschild. There is
mm,
evidence he was the Rothschild, whether he was or not. There is evidence that his mother or his grandmother worked at one of the Rothschild mansions. There's evidence.
yeah, I think it
So
was May. Was it Mayor Ramshaw?
I
I
think it's
think
Mayor
was it.
Amschel Rothschild. Yes,
Yeah, it was.
but I
Yeah.
mean that could be true. It could not be true. I mean, I don't know, but it's fascinating. But like sometimes it's not even to do with what I'm talking about.
Mm.
It's
Oh
bizarre.
yeah, they're strange, aren't they? When you get ones like that, when you get a comment that has nothing to do with what
Yeah.
you're talking about, and I had one today. I put a post up sharing a link to YouTube, so I just put a video up of me interviewing Andrew Bridgen,
Hmm.
and I thought he did it was the only MP really questioning what was going on
Yeah, of
during the
course.
pandemic, and I'd been desperate to talk to him, and I put that up, and someone put up a comment saying something to do with that we're all light in God's eyes and we're all blah blah blah, and it was just a link saying if you want to watch my latest YouTube. And, and I just thought this is weird, and you do get them now and again, and I think are they just copying pasting
Some of them,
that
some
and
of
putting
them.
it
But
everywhere,
I get
or
things for like not mentioning certain things in videos. So say like if I talk about the black nobility, if I don't mention every single family that might be in them, which can be thousands, like
mm,
or hundreds even. There's one big family anyway. They all just have it off together. So
yeah,
it is one
absolutely,
family, but they ain't got
yeah,
one name. Um, it's either they see if you not including some information as you purposely admitting it, not that you can't. Like I'm not you know, I
hmm,
can't spurt all of the links out ever at the one time, and people wouldn't. And then you get people like I get other people say it's too deep and too like you're missing like the basic points. But which so you just can't please everyone. This is my I the thing is what like likes of David does, and I do too. Is and it might be because I'm just all over the place. But I don't just look into one subject. I look into how all the different
yeah,
subjects across the board link into one. That's
mm,
what fascinates me. So I
mm,
won't spend 6 months looking at UFOs. I won't spend years looking at flat Earth or underground tunnels or things because I look at it for a certain amount of time till I think, okay, that connects in with that
yeah,
to that degree. Now I'm moving on. I'm not like that sort of researcher. I'm a bit like a child looking around, going, "What next? Where does that fit in? Where does or what information's coming in?" Like a detective. I think I would have been a detective if I hadn't done this because it's the whole picture fascinates me. I'm not
yeah,
interested in and I'm something like I say to was the devil's in the detail. Well, it is. The devil
absolutely,
is getting stuck in the detail.
mm,
If you get stuck in the most nuanced, if you want to argue about a phrase in the Bible for
yeah,
25 years, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
the
You're
picture is
examining your
massive.
navel, aren't you?
You
It's
are,
just
yeah.
yeah,
And I've seen people arguing over the biblical text for the last 10 years while I've been doing these videos and stuff, and 20 years even, going well back, and they're still on the same topics. And you're like, what's
mm,
the point? What's the point? You have your
yeah,
opinion, other people have theirs. Find something else to look into because you're trying to tell the world what is true. And none of us really know 100%,
no, we don't.
but it's fascinating.
It's I look at it as a warren, and it doesn't matter whether or not I'm looking at Epstein or whether I'm looking at the moon or
Mm,
Sumerian text or whatever it is. I only look at it for a while, find the information I was looking for on something very specific,
yeah,
and then my head goes back into Tartaria.
yeah,
And so I'm sent a lot of stuff. I'm sure you are. Have you seen this? Have you looked at that? And I just don't have time to look at it
yeah.
all.
I do, yeah.
Um, because if I looked at everything I was sent and watched every link, then I wouldn't certainly wouldn't have time to write anything.
No.
And so I tend to sort of dip in and out of subjects as and when I need to, because they're helping me connect more dots. Really, everything in the end to me boils down to Tartaria.
Mm. No, I like that. Actually, the same with me with the Kabbalah and this
Mm,
messianic, like playing out the biblical text, end time text. Everything comes back to that with me now. So I'm pretty much similar. It's very true. I never really thought of that way, but I relate everything off of that launch pad because everything else just
mm.
fits in with that. But it's very, yeah, that's really interesting actually.
Are your friends and family on board with you, or do you
No.
have conflict? Yeah.
No, my dad was, bless him. My dad listened to our WhatsApp podcast with me and Gaz, where we make light of all the stories in the week and the madness of it all. My dad was clued up with this stuff actually, so he knew a lot more than he let on, and he was a lot smarter than he allowed people to think he was. Um, he was a bit of a lone wolf. So yeah, my dad knew, but no one else in my family really that bothered about it. I've tried bringing up things like Rosemary's Baby with certain family members, and it just turns from absolutely they get angry at you because you're like they're wearing the same fucking dress,
Yeah.
and yeah, they just don't have the capacity to it. To
Did you
not
did
not oh, they're not silly. I don't mean that in a way that they're not. They just don't. it's not an interest of theirs, and you have to
Mm.
respect that. That's totally their decision.
Did you have much backlash during the pandemic? With your family and and friends, were you able to get them to listen to your
I
concerns?
never really tried. Never tried. My dad knew anyway what it was all about. He listened to the podcast. I never tried pushing my kind of theories on them, and they did buy into a lot of it. And all respect to them, I just don't try and push it on them. They
Mm,
know me. They watched some of my videos here and there, and they know what I know. And we have different belief systems of how the world works. So not any backlash. I just didn't go along with it. But
mm,
because we all live quite separate, we don't live that close to each other. We didn't really see each other that often. I wasn't obviously going to wear a mask and all of that stuff, and I just carried on as per normal. But, they're respectful to me anyway. Like we get on well, me and my
mm,
sisters and my family. So it was just mutual respect. We just see the world differently. So never really got any like that. And I respect them enough not to put my, beliefs on them as
yeah,
well.
yeah. It's certainly a hard one. I learned the hard way, but in 2020, if you want to put your thoughts on what's going on out there, you have to really think about who your friends are and their views. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself unfriended or attacked. And
Oh, I got a
it,
lot of that. I got a lot of unfriended, but I didn't really give a shit about that.
no, I
My
agree.
family were fine because that's who they are, and they know. I was born without an esophagus. I've always been a bit weird. I've always been a bit like I'm not behaving normally. So, I never really saw the world like most people did. I saw it from inside hospitals most of the time. So,
Oh
like
shit,
I
really?
yeah, when I was a kid, I'm lucky to be here. But like so I don't know. We've always got on well, me and my sisters. We just don't do that. I mean, do that sort of stuff. So people outside the family, my friends are Gareth and Jamie. Their dad's David Icke. Like, you're gonna get much. You know,
Yeah.
I'm all right. I've got a couple of friends, Gareth, Gary, who's been with me for years, who introduced me to a lot of David's work anyway, and Steve, who's the same, but he doesn't believe in half the stuff I talk about. But we have respect. But as you get older, you don't have that many friends, do you? You don't.
No, it's very
You
true.
kind of just think, I got my
Be
kids. My little boys take up all my time. They're tiny.
mm, I think it becomes quality over quantity,
Yeah.
and you stop you stop needing a
Mm.
large circle of friends, and I do think if you can master your own company,
Oh, I like being with myself. I work with myself 95% of the week. I'm on my own. I
yeah,
reckon I'm all right with that.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
But I think once you're comfortable with that, and you start to embrace it, I find that I don't know, maybe I get a lot more done as a result of the fact that I'm not worrying about why this mate hasn't asked me out for a beer and what this lot are
Yeah.
doing at the weekend and oh, I better go to that and I better go to this. I'm just a lot more, I suppose, not insular because I go out and
Mm.
talk, and I love meeting people, but um, I find that I'm more like the lone wolf that you described your father as. I think I'm a
Yeah.
little bit like that. My father's the same. Whereas my youngest son, but my eldest son, he's got fucking mates all over the world. Do you know what I mean? And he's just one of those people.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a party, then you're gonna invite him because he's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
And larger than life. He's big ex-rugby player. He's a big lad, and he's covered in tattoos and stuff. And people just like hanging around him. Where with me, if you hang around with me for more than half an hour, I'm going to take you down a rabbit hole that you
Yeah.
might
Same here.
not want to go down.
I'm the same, but I also find things really funny as well. So, like, I don't know, you change as you get older, don't you? I wasn't always like that.
Mm,
So I've become more and more grounded in my own. Like, I like to read this stuff. I read
yeah.
this stuff all day long. I've got books here and Zachariah Sitchin there, and what's
Oh
the
wow. I've got his
uh,
I've got I've got his book next to me. Well, actually, it was written
Moving
by his
Hologram.
nephew.
Was it? Oh, what this book?
Yeah, no, hold on a second. I'll just grab it.
I got. See, I read all the time like this stuff.
His
Men
nephew.
in
Sorry,
Black.
his niece. I'm just reading this one at the moment.
Oh, okay.
And that
Oh,
was
brilliant.
that's written by his niece. or edited by his niece.
That's a fascinating one. The thing about
Yes.
Sitchin, I think Dad, David, David met him once and said that they didn't get on very well. But he said that he was a Zionist, Sitchin,
Mm,
and I didn't know that till recently. But again, all the books fascinate me, so I read this stuff, and I'm happy with my book. I'm leaving, sit in the corner and read my book. I just can't get enough of this madness. It's just mental. So
yeah, it is. There's
I'm all
plenty
right.
of it.
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch, where's the best place to do that? I know obviously you're
Um,
on Facebook and Insta, but
Yeah, they could head over to iconic.com. That'd be the best place you can see them. Say 1.99 for your first month, 7.99 going on. You've got all of David's content on there as well. So we'll be doing a couple of documentaries together. And there's a weekly shows on there. There's loads. I think there's about 12 weekly shows, 13 weekly shows that we put out each week, which is just insane for a tiny company. Um, and all our documentaries over the last 6 years on there. So iconic.com for that. You can find me on Substack for my articles. So if you go over there and just put Richard Willett in or put Some May Conspire, and you'll find my Substack there. And the book will be out hopefully in the new year. And that you can find me WTAF Rich on Twitter or X, which is WTAF Rich on there. They're the main ones I use at the moment. But most of my work goes on Iconic because that's where we all put our energy into to
yeah.
keep that going. Yeah.
Where are you going to sell your books? Are you going to sell them through Iconic? Are you going to put them on Amazon as well,
I
or?
think it'll be on Amazon and sell through
Mm,
Iconic as well. Yeah, yeah.
mm,
I got to that bit. I'm really looking forward to getting it out there. I think it's a really good, interesting. Everything I spoke about in this show is in there, including a lot more, obviously, context to it all. But it's the first book I've done, and I'm always wanted to write one, and I feel like I've actually got one that makes sense this time,
yeah.
and it's kind of managed to narrow it down to a subject whilst being very expansive as well. So
Mm.
I hope I can get to write many more in the future. I would love to. I'd love to do this until I can't anymore. So writing is the future for me, hopefully. And I wouldn't mind doing some on stage presentations and stuff like that. So, and
I'm
we've got.
sure they'll follow because
I'd love it to
mine were
do.
accidental. I never set
Yeah.
out to go and give talks, and
Your book's done really well,
mm,
haven't they? Your books have done. You should be, yeah, well proud of what you've done. Your books have done really, really well.
yeah, it's a hard old slog because every day I'm trying to think of what I can put out there that would engage people enough to go on and read it.
Mm,
And or read at least one of the books because depending on whether you're more Tartaria or more cloning, the
mm,
two obviously connect.
yeah.
But I because I want people to buy my book, either of them, and read it and then pass it on. Give
Yeah.
it to someone else, get them to read it, and then pass it on and pass it on. And like I've done a couple of times where I've screwed people's orders up and I've sent their books out twice, and they
Right.
say to me, "What do you want?" Because obviously you can get mine online, but if you want a signed copy, they buy them from my website. And
Yeah.
I've sent them out twice accidentally, and they said, "Well, you sent me two. Would you like me to send one back to you?" And I always say the same thing. No, no, take
Oh,
it to your nearest public library.
oh,
Give it
that's
to your
nice.
library. Because I think the more people that read this information,
Yeah, and you're leaving a legacy out there. Like I can't wait to have your book in your hand that you wrote. That would mean more to me than anything I think I've done. Just
mm,
to have that book and the films I've made through 20 plus years of being in the film and TV industry and coming away from the mainstream and doing this to have a physical book. I
mm,
just think that this will be a major achievement just for me personally. So, yeah, yeah, might going. Wish my dad was around a year earlier. Probably got it out, but these are the things I dedicated to him. I've got one of your books here as well. I've got your Tartara book over there. Um, yeah, I think you've done really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing
thank
you soon.
you. Yeah, yeah, January.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Start filming. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And like I said, a little bit nervous, but
Oh, you have to worry, it's me. Just a bit of a wally, really, to be honest. Just a bit of a wally.
Do you know what? I keep thinking about this sort of a get out of jail free card because I forget things. My memory is terrible. I have to write everything down. I've got notes everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was why I wrote that first book. They were notes and I
Yeah.
put them into a book. because my memory is just, and it's getting worse. And now I'm surrounded by more and more and more notebooks everywhere. But I just thought that to write a book with all of my thoughts in would be something that my children may
Oh
or may
yeah,
not read, but they'll have,
yeah,
and
exactly.
they'll pass it on.
Yep.
And it's something that stays with you. It's a journey, and there's something about, 100 years from now, someone picking up one of your books,
Oh,
and the
absolutely.
smell and the feel of an old book
Yeah,
and the
it's
look of it. How many
physical.
people have read it?
Yeah,
And I think that that's something that you lose with ebooks.
yeah. But that's to me is, and I get to this point in the documentary. That's immortality. That's what immortality
Yes.
is. Your ideas and your spirit comes through what you create,
Mm,
artistically, physically. Your children, you live on through what you create. I don't think these prats have understood that at all.
mm,
You live on through what you create. It's infused. I see myself sitting like this, like my dad does half the time. I know that my dad's with me. I can feel it.
mm,
Like even more than when he was alive, I can feel it. I know that. So we are immortal, and that's the whole point in the film is that we have it anyway.
mm.
You just want to stay here.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
immortality. It's not the same thing. You don't suddenly die when you leave the arcade. It's you just leave the arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the analogy I was going to give a moment ago, and then I went off on a tangent, was um, AJ Gentile from the Y Files, and he always says at the end, I put my thoughts out there, and I'm going to get it wrong,
Mm,
and I sometimes change my mind, and I go in and out of subjects, and then sometimes I'll find some new evidence, and I'll openly say. I thought it was this, but actually now I've read this information. I think it's that. It was
yeah.
X, now it's Y, and AJ from the Y Files always says at the end of the day, I'm just a man who talks to a fish.
Yeah.
And I really like that because,
Yeah.
you know, as I was saying, I get forgetful. I have to write everything down, and I think how long is my memory going to hold out? And I just have to keep writing and writing and writing, and they're turning into books, and it's sometimes it's just I suppose, my way of documenting everything because one day I think I'm going to wake up and not know where I am and
Mm.
what's going on. And between now and then, I have to get as much information out there as possible, even if no one buys it or reads it. At least I'll have had it printed, and that might be of interest to my great grandchildren.
Well, they are. People are buying it, so you've definitely achieved that, mate. Definitely.
Well, I think you'll be following.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'll
We'll
certainly be
see.
getting a copy of I Am Immortal. I'm on board, mate.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I found the chat absolutely fascinating, and it certainly for me connects dots. But your research is absolutely incredible, I've got to say, mate.
Thank
Absolutely
you. I really
fantastic.
appreciate it. Coming from you, that does mean a lot.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. What do I know? I'm
Oh,
just
what
a
do
man
I
who
know?
sits and talks to my dog.
Well, I'm just a man who sits in and talks to the computer. No one. So
I
yeah.
was thinking, I was saying we were with a couple of friends earlier on. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Minder
Yeah, of
with
course I
Terry
am. Yeah.
McCann and
I'm
Arthur Daly.
44 now, mate. I'm 44.
Bloody hell. What's going on in Iconic? Why does nobody look as old as they are?
I've got. I think it's a filter, mate. Also, yeah, there's some videos out there. The last year, I've looked like fucking death warmed up. So honestly, I was going through a little bit of a good phase, I think, and I think it's the filter and the lighting. That's what it
Oh,
is, mate.
yeah, well, you would say that. But I've been thinking about doing my little dog Arthur. He's a pug zoo, half pug, half Shih Tzu. And sometimes I've been on YouTube being interviewed, or maybe I'm interviewing someone, and he's decided he wants to come and sit on my lap. He's sat next to me right now in a chair, but he sometimes wants to sit on my lap, and
Yeah,
you know. He's the grandchild I haven't yet got. So when he looks at me with the eyes, I
yeah,
pick him up, and sometimes he pops up and says hello. And his name's Arthur.
yeah,
And I keep thinking about doing a monologue starting in January, just 10 minutes a day, saying what's eating Gilbert Grape kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
And I thought about calling it, getting him on so he becomes the fish, the
yeah,
heckle fish of the Y Files. So he can say the things to me that I can't really say. And
yeah.
then I can try and debunk him. And I thought about calling it Guy and Arthur Daily Podcast.
Yeah, I like it.
And
Oh,
a bit of
daily.
Minder in there,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
Arthur
that. Yeah,
Daly. And I thought, that won't make much sense overseas. But here in England, most
it
people
would
remember
do.
watching Minder.
Yeah,
And I thought they might see Guy and
I
Arthur
like it.
Daly. Yeah, and I
I
thought,
get it.
yeah, I sort of thought it's a bit of fun in it. And then
Yeah,
I can blame him. So if I come out and say something really, really bizarre, like the latest one, actually, the latest um, theory that's circulating is that Donald Trump has died.
right.
Within the last couple of few days, he's not been seen for a bit, and blah blah blah, and he's been replaced, or there's something seriously wrong with him. And so, if I turned around and said, I think Donald Trump's died and he's been replaced, and this has happened literally this week, there'll be a few people out there who might think I'm nuts. Although this shit happens all the time. But Arthur can say it for me, can't he?
Good skin. Yeah,
No
it's
one's
like
going
a
to have a
puppet.
go
It's
at
like having a
dog, are they?
puppet. No, it's like when people have puppets and yeah, they do it. They
Yes.
hide behind it. It's a clever,
Yeah.
clever scene. It's a
Yeah.
shell. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's another show. Well,
Uh,
thanks, Richard. Thanks so
you're all
much
right,
for coming
mate.
on, mate.
No worries. Let me know when it's out, and I'll post it on David's website. And I'll put it on there and embed it on a article on his website, and I'll share it about for you.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Yeah,
Awesome.
so I'd probably sort of do it after the weekend,
Okay,
sort of
mate. Yeah.
Tuesday,
Send me
something
all the
like that.
links, and I'll get it on his website and get people over to your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Of course, mate. No worries.
Well, thanks once again for coming on. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, mate, and
Thank you, mate.
looking forward to working with you in January.
Yeah. I'll see you soon. You take
Take
care.
care. Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.
Bye.